Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are talking WoW and the casual player. So let's get into this. So I suppose really we should start this off by saying, what is casual? What is it defined as? I mean, granted, if you believe the Twitch streamers and a lot of the YouTubers, there's only 8 of us still playing World of Warcraft by now, so maybe hell, we're all casual, I don't know. But the thing is, it's not easy to define casual, not as everybody seems to think it is. The reason being is because the goalposts kind of constantly change when it comes to what people say casual is. The reason I think this happens? Pretty simple. Most people that bring up this conversation of casual, they say it as a bad thing. Casual players ruin World of Warcraft. And the last thing you want, if you see it as a bad thing, is to be on the wrong side of those goalposts. So they constantly move them as to what casual is, so that means they are in the hardcore camp. You'll speak to one person, they'll be like, oh no, you've got to at least done all your plus 10s. You have to do your plus 10s. Then you'll speak to another person, they'll be like, no, 10s are for casuals. You've got to at least have done your 15s. Speak to somebody else, and it's, I'm sorry, but if you have not completed Mythic raiding, then you're a casual. Somebody else will say, I'm sorry? No. If you haven't done your PvP, maxed it out, you haven't been doing at least plus 25s on your Mythics, then you're a casual. If you haven't been doing raiding on top of that, then you're a casual. So for us, we're going to try and keep it simple. We shall say that casual comes down to 2 things. First up, playtime. Now granted, and this is why I say 2 things. What one player can achieve in, let's say, 3 hours a week is very different to, say, what another player can achieve. We shall also say that the person that we're creating here, this hypothetical player, is not interested or able to do endgame content. And I think that should do it. Maybe, I don't know, this player used to be a high-end raider, now has family or work commitments, and they simply can't commit that sort of time to the game anymore. Maybe they're a player that just gets stressed in pressure situations, so they prefer to focus on solo aspects of the game. Whatever the reason may be, we now have our hypothetical casual player. Limited playtime with limited access to endgame content. Now this, believe it or not, is a massive amount of the WoW player base. Yeah, it's like at least 6 of those 8 people that are left. But this isn't going to be perfect science, but bear with me on this one, okay? This is not going to be 100% perfect. If we take a look at the Shadowlands Keystone Explorer Season 1 achievement, now that's the achievement where you're required to do all of the Mythic Dungeons plus 5 in time. According to Wowhead, only 30% of the profiles have this achievement. It tells you a lot about the level that players are currently playing at. I mean, hell, if you want to dive in really deep on this, go over to Raider.io and have a look at the amount of players that did M+ Season 1, unique players, and then have a look at what key levels they did. Something like 8 million players, the vast majority of them were, say, 6 and below. The problem is, for that casual player, WoW does very little for them in terms of reward. WoW's progression system is all about the pursuit of power via loot. Well, what do you need power for if you're not using it? Let's look at Shadowlands currently. If you have an item level of around 200, then you're all good for any worldly content you're going to do. Easy do Korthia. You can easily do all the Covenant zones. And then Korthia, you're just slowly going to keep amassing gear that as you get knowledge you can upgrade. You can be easy sat at 220 without setting foot in any endgame content. But realistically, what does that mean if I have a limited amount of time to play? What does, on top of that, then gaining, I killed the world boss, I have 233 eye level boots now. Well, that's great. I can kill a fraction of a second faster and I have slightly more health. But I'm not doing any content where that was ever really an issue, therefore that's not really a reward. Yeah, I get the endorphin fired for a second, but it's gone. As quick as I gain that kind of thing, when the next patch drops, when the next content releases, and Blizzard need the item level to go up yet again, they'll just hand out catch-up gear, exactly like Korthia. We'll have Korthia 2.0. Oh look, here's some more gear. Those boots are forgotten about. They're gone in the trash. And realistically, this is the mindset of a lot of WoW, with regards to loot being the reward. I mean, even if we go outside of our casual sample, take a look at Mythic Raiders. They actually really do not give a flying fudge about gear. Yes, they need gear good enough to aid them in their progression. Once they are far enough into progression, they are equipped with Mythic Raid gear. When they're on farm, they are dripping in fat loot. Their challenge is the raid, and the byproduct of that is they will naturally get loot. The pursuit of loot as an end game in and of itself is purely something from the Pug world, where it's a way of showing that I am better than you. This comes from Gear Score, Wrath of the Lich King. You had people putting on trinkets that were really inappropriate for them, but because the gear score was slightly higher, oh, gear score's everything, that's what I'm going to do. It's the same reason that we have Flavor of the Month classes. Flavor of the Month is a thing, the very highest level, where the skill ceiling has been reached. You cannot gain any more from your character by player skill alone. Therefore, you have to find whatever edge you can. So say we look at Windwalker. Oh my god, it's doing 2.5% more DPS than a warrior. We also need the debuff from the monk. Okay, that's important. Now, because we're using a warrior tank, we have rally, etc. So the warrior DPS is less important. Okay, let's go with the Windwalker. The Windwalker is better than the warrior. Now, as you see, when Mythic players are talking about this, it doesn't. Even that conversation doesn't come down to a purely DPS answer. There are other factors. That when Pugs see that, it's Windwalker is better than Fury and Arms Warrior. That's it, that's the take. Doesn't matter if the player has no skill with Windwalker Monk. What they're hoping for is that the reputation will get them into groups alone. Oh, Windwalker Monk's meta at the moment, you're a Windwalker Monk, fine, we'll take you over that Warrior. Even though that guy's been playing Warrior since vanilla, and knows every trick, knows everything he possibly do to help his group. Nope, doesn't matter, we'll take Monk. So if we look at that, we say the very, very top don't really care about gear. It's a byproduct of what they're naturally doing. And the majority of the group of players don't really care about gear. Then why are Blizzard still so focused with gear as a reward for everything? It doesn't incentivize the casual player. I want to be entertained. I want to escape from this real world when I set foot in World of Warcraft. I want to be transported to this amazing world of Azeroth. I understand, I get it. There are always going to be a small number of tasks that I need to do. That is simply MMO 101 and has been for an extremely long time. They have to give you that reason, that FOMO, that fear of missing out if you don't log in every day. Every MMO does it to some extent. But after 10-15 minutes, I should be free to do whatever I want. Now at that point, if I'm logging out, the game needs to look at itself. And the problem is with WoW in Shadowlands right now, that's what a lot of people are doing. I've done my Korthia, I'm done, I'm good to log out. But I should be able to do is to go, okay, I've done those things, I've done my Korthia, what do I want to do now? What other things are there for me to do? And these things should be laid out before you as a player. Because if you're new, how the hell do you know half the things are available in World of Warcraft? Why not have the notice board that we have? Extend it out. Include other things of interest. Like The Witcher. The Witcher has that really big notice board that has all sorts of things on it. So why not, when I go up to World of Warcraft notice board, it's, hey, why don't you go and do a pet battle in Pandaria? We'll give you this current expansion reward. Or, we want you to raid this old dungeon, kill the final boss, and you'll gain this transmog item. Or, like we currently have with Honor, a currency that allows me to buy old transmog sets. The same should be done for professions. This reliance on rep for alts is simply painful and uninteresting. Why not have these quest lines similar to what we had in Legion that allow us to deeper understand our profession? I still 100% believe that we should have a crafting hall or crafting guilds. As I say, similar to the Legion Order Halls, have a place where all tailorers or all blacksmiths can go. And these would be forever, they would transcend an expansion. This profession hall would send you out on a quest to learn all that you can about materials. Oh, the Shadowlands just opened. Go find all the things you can on those materials and report back to us. Now instead of a rep grind, you have your profession level and your dedication to your craft. As you've learnt new things, you'd go back to your profession, your guild hall, and they would be like, okay, as we understand it, we'll share our knowledge and experience with you. And then you can have the last patch of the expansion would always have a mount for each profession. And when I say profession, I mean gathering as well. But it would take you a long quest chain to achieve this, a lot of materials. You'd have to be an extremely high level with your profession. It's completely separate from endgame, but it's a really long, interesting thing that I can keep doing. It's not just gather a ton of materials and make 15 of each item. That's not an endgame profession. Last of all, features like Torghast and the Mage Tower. We need more features like this, but we don't need them tied to item level. The Mage Tower, let's be honest, became a walk in the park later on when your eye level was significantly high enough. Now why not, instead of eye level being a thing, have it that where you enter Torghast or our new Mage Tower replacement, you are scaled to a set item level. If you're too low, it bumps you up. If you're too high, it brings you down. Now it's a player skill thing that's required. You need to be a good player. You need to understand your class and all the mechanics, so that as you go through each level, as you improve, so the difficulty raises. So new enemies are introduced, new traps, new mechanics. It gets harder and harder as you go on. The only thing stopping you is your skill, and you're going to learn new tricks. You're going to learn more of the toolkit of your class. You're going to gain confidence. So maybe where you've started out, I'm not brave enough to set foot into any of this endgame content. Now I've done this. Now I know that I've achieved my max level of my Torghast run, and I can do this. I feel confident in this class now. I know the tricks of trade. I know the tools that I can use to help my entire group. But more importantly, you don't need to worry about your item level. If you can't obtain to high gear because you don't want to do raiding, or you can't do raiding, you can't do M+, you can't do PvP, you can still have challenging, meaningful content that tests you as a player. That's important. And then you can have a reward system that, as we said before, you can have tokens that allow me to go and get transmogs. Or maybe each floor, each layer of this hypothetical Mage Tower Torghast hybrid drops a transmog item for your class. And then maybe, here we go, this is now off the top of my head, why not have it that the last boss, so let's say there's X number of floors, and they're normal Torghast floors. When you get to the last floor, it is simply a Mage Tower style boss. Overcome that boss, and you gain a sick weapon appearance like you did in the Mage Tower. All these things that we're talking about would engage players without the need to participate in the big 3 endgame routes. WoW needs to stop with the idea that loot is everything and it's the only carrot that will lead players. I hate to break it to you, Blizzard, but if you come a step out of that mindset, then your player metrics will go through the roof. If we didn't have these locked-in covenants, and instead they were great storylines, they were great transmogs that I wanted to buy into, then all of my ults would be flying through different things. I did every single Legion Order Hall because I wanted a different story, a different approach. Forcing players to go through the same story over and again, locking them into the same steps, doesn't interest players. What you need to do is instead open your eyes to the wealth of options you have before you. You've got technology that you've created from recent expansions. You've got the AI that was created for Islands. Why not use that for older content? So I can do scaled versions with AI teammates that gives rewards not bound by gear, but something else. That something else could be garrisons. We had player housing for the briefest moment, in its loosest sense. Bring back the garrisons, bring back a style of player housing, and therefore doing these old different dungeons with my AI teammates rewards me things in my house. And that doesn't need to be grand. It doesn't always need to be so over the top. I don't always need to be the greatest saviour of the planet. Hell, I would be happy you give me a shack in Booty Bay and I can just sit outside the front on a deck chair. It's crazy, but also maybe a way to save guilds would give you big guild, like a guild hall. It's a place I can hang out with all my guildies. That was the biggest downside of garrisons, was I had to invite players in. I just wanted a place where I could hang out with all my guildies. That would have been cool. Warhammer Online had this, for God's sake. We used to all hang out in there and it was fantastic. It was great. Give us back features like the Legion Order Halls, but make them transcend the simple expansion cycle of life and death, as Sylvanas would say. It's also a great way to bring the player base into becoming one pool of players. Instead of Horde versus Alliant, you just have every class against Druids. Then you could start to merge us all into one big player pool. I'd love that. Joking aside, WoW doesn't need a massive overhaul. It needs to embrace all these great features, all these great ideas that have come up and then just been dropped. Instead, narrowing in on this, we have big three things is fine. Raiding, PvP, M+, that is it. Thank you. Everything else is forgotten. Create new ideas for next expansion. There's no other MMO that does this. Constant new systems. Oh my god, there's no MMO that does this like WoW. There is so much that can be done, and that I hope Blizzard do going forward. I hope they just throw the shackles off and they say, look, let's just go with it. Let's go do something that we want to do. Don't be bound by these constraints. If you're talking about player numbers, who cares now? Your player numbers are already apparently low. There's 8 of us left. So instead, make the game that you want to make. Make the game that you can be proud of. Forget these old ideas that have bound you since God knows when. You never should have embraced or bought into the gear score idea. Drop it. Rebuild guilds. Scrap this idea of this pug player base. Make WoW a welcoming place that players want to interact with each other, not they're so scared of anxiety to join other players. That is not a game that... It's just not anything that should be in gaming at all. Well, I'm rambling here and I apologise. I think that's enough from me now. I need to go lie down in a dark room or something, but... Let me know your ideas for how you'd improve WoW as a casual player experience. But thank you for watching, everyone. Stay safe, and I will catch you all in the next video. Ladies, everyone.